All I've ever known in this life is the grind, fast pace, and a no-quit mentality. Always searching for the next challenge to fill the void in this crazy thing we call life. Little did I know, my first love as a kid, the whitetail, would stick with me forever. And now it's more than a lifestyle. This is what I live for.
All right, it is June 23rd. I'm out here just doing a little bit of maintenance, a little bit of scouting, a little bit of picking around. I had a camera up here on this ridge behind me, really just because I have a big deer in the area that I'm trying to catch up to. Just picked him out this late season, found his shed, really tore apart the area where I found his horn at, and I want to have all my bases covered. So in case he shifts, or maybe he's over in this section now and then he moves over there in the fall, I don't know that about that deer yet. But I come in here and check that camera. I had it on an intersection of trails on a scrape on the top of the ridge, but I had found some better stuff further down this way after I had to put that camera up. So I checked it. I put it up in March. There was some small bucks, does give me at least a good direction of travel. I worked down to the end of this ridge right here, and I put that camera up on what I think is the best scrape intersection thicket, bedding thicket of the entire ridge. So I have not been on this section. There's just a big hollow right here that leads into another ridge top to my left here. And instead of just walking out of here, I said, hey, I'm going to drop down this bottom and just see what's over here. And I'm glad I did. This is usually when I find my best stuff, is when I'm just like, hey, I'm going to check this out. So what really caught my eye here was when I dropped down into this bottom, I could see on the map that right here, this bank has a strip of buck laurel, and it just starts here. It's just a strip. It's like this on the bank side. It goes over the lip and just runs up the hollow ways. So you can see Peter's out right here. As I was working up this bottom, I was actually taking note that this creek bottom and this hollow bottom is really sandy, which is really good because you can pick out a good place to pick up a track. And before I waste my time jumping up into that buck laurel and going through the middle of it, I said, I'm just going to walk this creek bottom just a little bit and look for those tracks cutting across, and then go from there, because there's always going to be a reason why they're crossing, which I'll show you right here. See all them rocks up in there? A lot of times those are big reasons why deer cross in places. Just deterrence. This is less thick here, they could come off that edge. Rocky there, that's why they wouldn't. Just an example. But as I was coming up this bottom, it's really rocky back here, and I said, well, there's probably not going to be any scrapes unless it starts to flatten out. This is known to be a rocky area, but I tell you what, it only takes that one spot. As soon as I hit that spot, banger scrape. I mean, I know it's tough to take into consideration how big, but it's a big one. I mean, it's covered up from this past season, but perfect looking branches. There's a whole bunch of small branches broken up in there, and there's some bigger stuff in the back. But nice ferny, cool bottom in here, and I wouldn't be surprised if there's another one like right over here. It looks like another great spot for a scrape. But I'm at least going to take note of this. This will be something to come back to if I figure out that the deer are crossing right here pretty hard, because this scrape probably does mark an intersection. There's probably does crossing from ridge to ridge here, and there could be a buck doing that too, because there's cover fairly close on both sides, but this could be like a long parallel buck travel where the buck's cutting all these doe trails going across this, and he's going to scrape down here in this bottom. But I don't have any extra cameras with me, but I'm going to mark this because this could be a really good spot for inventory. Even better than up there in the thicket, you know. Up in the thicket, you gotta be pretty specific because you're trying to cover one or two things. But down in the bottom like this could be really good inventory, especially late summer like this, man, right by this creek in here. It's cool. So I'm going to freshen this thing up, and I'm going to mark it on my Spartan Forge. And then I'm going to continue up this bottom and try to find some heavy crossings or some more scrapes. So I got this thing cleaned out. And this might give you a little better reference. I only cleaned out what was already a pre-existing scrape. I just took that outside oval on and opened her up. That's how big that thing was in the fall time. That's a good one. I got some goodies up in the branches there for him. Will smell good, and possibly could revisit this fall. Could be something to come back to if I'm having trouble locating that deer. This might be a good place to find him. So make sure to note all that stuff. Everything's important. Micro details. Keep them. All right, so I got finished up with that first spot, and about 2 weeks ago I was checking a camera across the road back here, and I ran into a big track, and the big track wasn't really headed in the direction that I'm used to or I suspected, but it makes sense. It's thick on this hillside right here across the road. It's north face, a lot of buck laurel. So I decided to hop in here today and just see what I could figure out. Might be something in here worth noting, or might even find the spot. Some scrapes across the road. I've been monitoring with cameras, and last year they were pretty good. I thought I had it figured out, but there might be something in here that I'm missing. So I cut up over the bank. I used the LiDAR feature on Spartan Forge and the UAV to kind of get into a bubble, like this little bubble where I want to be at. I used the UAV to find the buck laurel and like the shape of it, the outside edge, and then I used the LiDAR to kind of figure out if there was any, fuller trails in here. Or mainly what I used it for in this scenario is there's a lot of rocks in here and like some like cliffs and stuff on the lower side. So I was looking for gaps in those is what I was doing. There are some trails down there in those gaps, but I don't think that's the spot. But I followed this stuff up in this buck laurel and finally hit a scrape that looked pretty good. Not a giant one, but there's a bunch of just gnarly, tore up looking branches on this buck laurel bush. And it was a small opening back here behind me. And then I followed the trail up in here just a touch more because I didn't feel like I was really in it just yet. And I'm still not like in the spot yet, I don't think. But I feel like I'm getting close. And everything is starting to connect now and come together. I just ran into, this is the second scrape that I found. You can see the branches where they've been using them. And this is just right in line. This trail runs right out, and that little opening is right there. There's another good scrape in there. But buck laurel is usually where I find it at. So I'm going to keep moving just a little piece. I think within the next 100, 150 yards, I'm going to find either the spot or my starting point to fine-tuning this spot. So I want to keep following this buck sign and see if it leads me into something pretty awesome. A lot of times it could be anything from a trail intersection, where there's vertical doe trails coming down off this top and parallel buck trails going across. All the buck sign probably goes across all the vertical trails. Or it could be if I could find a good enough shelf, or where this is starting to kind of bench out right up here. And it's kind of like steep on the low side. If I can find where I can come up in here and just bottom access to a really high travel used bench that's thick with laurel, and I can play that north thermal on a low wind day, or find a trail that comes down and hooks, and I can get right on that hook and let my west wind blow out of, just off that hook, where I can get away with a west wind in here. And those are all great setups. So those are all things I look for. But we're gonna get into what we can find. Okay, now you can see I'm standing in some different stuff. I had a habitat change. I got out of the buck laurel. I even got on the UAV, and I could tell that I was on the edge. It's kind of a small patch of laurel, has like an oval shape to it. But as soon as you get to that outside edge, man, you just run into a sea, an abyss of this stuff. I believe it's just a red maple thicket. That's what I call them. Don't quote me on that. If you're a super Forbes Woods guy, but that stuff's thick. It's like a sea. One thing I cannot stress enough, though, I just put a lot of stuff together. I really think it's gonna be a good spot. I'm gonna have all this marked out. Plan B spot, for this season if I need to, but I need to get cameras in here at some point, even if it's not this season, for the future. It always pays to use anything you can as a reference. Log yards, terrain features, roads. Like, probably I find more deer referencing points and putting myself in the center of those. I find more deer doing that probably than anything. And I just had a lot of stuff really click in this spot. So when we did do deer drives when I was younger, we would drive this piece out, and I never walked to this section that I'm in. I was always walking on out from here. And every time that we would get bucks out of here, it clicked. I'm like, man, this right here is the section that we used to always push those bucks out of in gun season. And there's a lot going on in here. And down below me, there is a log yard that I used to run cameras in years ago. And it's always tore up with scrapes, like something crazy. I quit running cameras there because somebody kept stealing my stuff. Shocker, right? But I'm standing right in the center of where we used to drive, in that log yard that was full of scrapes. I mean, I am smack dab in the middle, and I just came off of a small section where there's two trails coming down from the top. One splits one way, one splits the other. But right there, where those two trails come down and split two different ways, there was 3 scrapes. Like, not giant community scrapes, because this is in the thick, this is in the laurel, but the laurel branches were snapped, destroyed, bare, hair on them. So there's a lot of deer coming through this intersection right here, and it's thick in here. So this is like catch a mature buck walking in here kind of stuff. And then you get the habitat change. There's a lot going on right here. So it really pays to use any amount of information you have at your disposal, using roads, terrain features, major points, anything that you have information on, and you can get yourself in the center of all of those. A lot of times it really pays off, and you can really start putting some stuff together. So I'm going to get on out here, and I might even videotape those trails coming down, show you guys what's going on, and then I might even pick a tree, because at some point during the season I might be drawing a blank somewhere, and I could just jump in here and pretty much already have this figured out and what's going on, and get a start on it for the next season. So see what's up. I just left the spot I was standing in, and I cut a pretty good buck track. I actually walked over it the first time, walking in there. Walking out, I cut it, but I'm just about to hit this little tiny opening where these trails come down and split, but I'll show you here. Coming right down the trail here, you got these breaks. There's the little stuff. There's breaks here, breaks here, break right there. I pay attention to that little stuff like that. And this is pretty good height up in here. That one there. And even over right there. That's all broken up. So I pay attention to that stuff. I really like finding just mashed, mangled up buck laurel, because buck laurel's tough. It takes some aggression to break buck laurel up like crazy. So I really like to look at that. It's thick in here. I like the terrain, and there's plenty of oaks, buck laurel, all kinds of browse in here. So I'd be excited to start getting some intel in this area, or this section. I think it's gonna be good. Okay, so after staring at trees for like 20 minutes, because that's how I am, I think I got one picked. And like I said, I can kill out of this tree, but you never know. It could just be a starter tree. Might sit here and see something different, but I've been trying to set up all my trees for the longbow. That way, no matter what, compound or trad bow, I'm in the game, and I'm not being too conservative and missing opportunities. So I'm getting really tight. I got this tree right here beside me picked. I got my tack on there. I got one trail comes down right here, and it turns. All those scrapes and stuff are right there going out, and right there's your habitat change, where you can see where the sun's hitting it. And then I got another trail. If I get to focus, another trail comes down right here. There's a rub right there on that tree, and this trail comes down and then hooks out that way, right there. There's more scrapes out that way. And then I just cut a buck track right over there, amongst these scrapes in here. So I like it. I'll get up in this thing. I'll have good cover. I got a tree in front and a tree to the side, and I'll get up. This one I'll have to get up for 15, 16 foot, which I usually don't unless I have to, but with the trad bow, that should be pretty sweet. I like it. I got just a touch of service in here, so potentially it could be something where if I'm scrambling in season because I'm not on something, I could run in here and put a hunt in, and if I wanted to, I could put a cell camera up if I wanted to. But I need to get some SDs in this section right here and see how they're traveling, and if there's any pattern to it. I know there's good bucks in this area for sure, no doubt. I mean, I get good bucks across the road from here all the time. But this could be the next best spot. You don't know. Figure it out. This is how this always happens. So I was actually marking my entry route from the tree I had just picked to that spot in the thicket. I was walking down. I was going to make it like a J back down to the road. And I freaking run into this beat down trail almost on, I was almost out, and I freaking cut that big track on it that I've been looking for this whole time. Not that I was like specifically looking for like the big buck, but I knew there was a big track going into this section, and it was like 65, 70 yards below where I just set up that tree in those intersections. I was like, son of a bitch. So I just put a halt on my exit route marker on Spartan, and I mean, I gotta get to work here for too long, but it's just too good to leave. So I just started hoofing it up in here, following that trail, and it started to kind of cut up, and I'm like, okay, like I almost guarantee you the trails that I just set up the first time are gonna meet with this one. Like they're gonna collide right here somewhere. And dude, what do you know it? Like the first set is still gonna work. It's a setup, but I think just a general like crossing, like an awesome crossing. It's kind of a hillside over here, and then there's a top and it drops over. It's this big point. It's a mountainside, but there's a, if you look at a big scale, this is a point coming down. And so I got right where those trails kind of like come together. And I love this kind of stuff right here. They come right out, like one trail comes here, and the trail I just followed actually came out and then come up into this corner, and this is just a little hidden open pocket. This is all that maple thicket and laurel mix, and there's a little finger. Right out here is where the open timber is, and it drops over this hilltop into more laurel. But if you look, right here's your thick, and it makes like a finger back into here. And there's some rocks and stuff right here, some blowdowns. Kind of makes them stay on this upper side. It's just like this little pocket right here. And they all come in right here. There's even there's a bed right here where they've been laying in some of this open timber. But there is tracks all over this thing in general that go across. So they're just hopping out of this thicket. Summertime, you know, bucks with their velvet, they're probably hanging around on this ridgetop a little bit right now. Or, you know, if they want to shade or get away from the bugs, they hop into that thick stuff and lay where it's more dense and shady. But, man, right here, I got good access into this too. I can come up. I can come up from the bottom up in here. And this is a north facing slope. So with a calm morning, thermals be pulling down. And I can even try to get, you know, I'm going to try to get back off this way a little bit in case I get a west breeze. But I always try to play the thermal first. But I was looking at this cherry here. I could probably get up in that right there with the stick bow. And I only have about 5 yards behind me where they could get behind me with the thermals dropping. But everything seems to be right here. I think that could be killer with the stick bow. Yeah, I mean, I'm excited for it. But I got so many other spots right now. But this is in the future. This is going to be. I'm going to put some cameras in here and see what's up. Because I think this is probably just like a natural crossing where they probably cross this all the time, all year long. But seeing that big track leading into this from across the road, that gets me excited. Indy can really start putting some stuff together. So, exciting stuff. I'm going to get this tree picked out here, marked on my Spartan Forge, and then I'm going to backtrack my way out of here. Gotta get to work.